Hey everyone, and welcome. We hear the term carbon footprint all the time, especially when we're talking about big companies and sustainability. But what does that actually mean? How do you measure it? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the global standard for doing just that, scopes 1, 2, and 3. Let's get into it.
So right off the bat, let's ask the big question. What is a company's real carbon footprint? It sounds simple enough, right? But the answer is, well, it's way more complicated than you might think. Because not all emissions are the same, and most of them you can't even see.
The absolute best way to think about this is to picture an iceberg. Seriously. The emissions that are super obvious, the ones happening right there at the company's factory or office, that's just a tiny little tip poking out of the water. The vast, vast majority of a company's true impact is hidden deep below the surface.
To really get our heads around the whole iceberg, we've got to look at it piece by piece. So let's start at the very top, the most visible part. This is Scope 1, and it's all about what's happening right inside a company's own walls.
Okay, so the official definition for Scope 1 is direct emissions. The keywords you really need to remember here are owned or controlled. This is the stuff a company is literally generating itself from things it owns. It's what they have the most direct, hands-on control over.
So what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, you've got a few main types. There's mobile combustion, which is just a fancy way of saying company-owned trucks and cars. Stationary combustion is things like boilers and furnaces on site. Then you've got emissions from the actual manufacturing processes. And you even have what are called fugitive emissions, which are basically these sneaky little leaks from things like air conditioners that, believe me, really add up.
To make this crystal clear, just imagine a big shipping company. All the exhaust pouring out of their fleet of delivery trucks. That is textbook Scope 1. It's direct, they own the trucks, it's all on them. Pretty straightforward, right?
Okay, so let's move one layer down the iceberg. We're shifting from what a company burns itself to the energy it buys from somebody else. This is Scope 2. And an easy way to think about it is it's the carbon footprint of the company's power bill.
So, Scope 2 is all about indirect emissions. The magic word here is purchased. The company isn't burning the coal or natural gas themselves, but they're using the electricity that it generates. So while the pollution is happening at the power plant, it's a direct result of that company's energy demand.
The biggest one here is, of course, the electricity you buy from the grid, but it can also include things like purchased steam, which a lot of factories use, or even large-scale heating and cooling systems for a massive office building.
Yup, this says it all. Every single time a major retail chain flips the switch to light up thousands of their stores, the emissions created by the power company to make that happen, all of that falls under the retailer's Scope 2 footprint. It's a direct connection, even if it's happening miles away.
All right, you with me? We've covered the tip of the iceberg with Scope 1 and the part just under the water with Scope 2. But now we're about to go deep. I mean, really deep. We're talking about Scope 3, which covers, well, pretty much everything else. The entire value chain. This is the massive, hidden beast under the surface.
The official definition for Scope 3 is basically all other indirect emissions. It's the big catch-all category. It covers everything that happens upstream, meaning in the supply chain, and everything that happens downstream, like when a customer uses the product. And this, my friends, is where things get wild.
And here it is. This is the aha moment. Just look at this breakdown. For so many companies, Scope 3 isn't just another slice of the pie. It is the pie. We're talking 80%, sometimes even more, of their entire carbon footprint. It's a total game changer. And it's because modern business is all about these massive global supply chains and the entire life cycle of a product.
So let's break that down a bit. Upstream is everything that happens to get stuff to the company. Think about the emissions from all their suppliers, all the business flights their employees take, even the carbon footprint of everyone commuting to the office every day. Downstream is the opposite. It's the journey of the product away from the company. So the emissions from a customer actually using the product and what happens when they throw it away.
A car company is the perfect example. Their upstream Scope 3 includes the massive carbon footprint of making all the steel, glass, and plastic they buy from other companies. But then look at downstream. It includes all the gasoline burned by every single car they've ever sold over its entire life on the road. Just try to imagine that number. It's staggering, and it's all Scope 3.
So to wrap it all up, this little table here is just perfect. Scope 1, that's the stuff you burn. You've got high control over that. Scope 2, that's the energy you buy. You have medium control. And Scope 3, That's everything else you influence. It's massive, and as you can see, it's where companies have the lowest direct control.
And seeing it laid out like that, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Why on earth would companies go through all the trouble of measuring this stuff, especially that gigantic, complicated Scope 3 that they have so little control over? Why does it all matter so much?
Well, for one thing, investors and regulators are basically demanding it now. A full Scope 1, 2, and 3 report gives them the complete, unvarnished truth about a company's exposure to climate-related risks. It's about moving past PR spin and into real, hard data and making sure everyone is playing by the new rules.
But hey, it's not just about pressure from the outside. For the companies themselves, being this transparent builds an incredible amount of trust with customers, employees, everyone. Plus, it helps them find ways to be more efficient and innovative. At the end of the day, it gives them a huge competitive advantage.
And really, it all comes down to this. You can't fix what you can't measure. Without seeing the full picture, the entire iceberg across all 3 scopes, any attempt a company makes to be more sustainable is really just a guess. You need the complete view before you can take any kind of meaningful action.
So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Now that you know how this works, now that you can see the whole iceberg, think about the stuff you use every day. Your phone, your sneakers, that coffee you're drinking. What's their hidden footprint? Once you start seeing the world in scopes 1, 2, and 3, you'll never look at things the same way again.